Hello, welcome to Module 6, Hazardous Substances and Working at Height. Now, learning outcome. In this module, you should be able to understand the following. So at the end of this module, you'll be able to understand hazardous substances, the control of substances hazardous to health regulations 2002, hazardous substances control measures, training and instruction, safety data sheet SDS, hazard labeling and packaging, working at height, control measures, mobile towers, mobile elevating work platforms, making of working at height equipment, safe use of ladders and step ladders. So this is what we're going to cover in this module 6. Now, common hazardous substances. Hazardous substances can include biological agents such as fungi, bacteria, viruses. The natural substances such as grain, flour, or enzymes, dust. Substances generated by work such as soldering or welding fumes or wood dust. Chemical product used or produced at work such as adhesives or cleaning agents. Now, this can be present in your workplace from a variety of sources, including gas such as chlorine or carbon monoxide, liquids such as degreasing solvent or cleaning chemicals, spray or mist such as paint, sprays and acid mist, fumes such as welding hot rubber, soldering, galvanizing fumes, vapor such as solvent, vapor released from adhesives, paint or inks, dust, powder or paste such as wood, cement, metal, flour, grain, rubber, or stone dust. Now, what is the control of substances hazardous to health regulations 2002? The control of substances hazardous to health regulations 2002 is a vital piece of UK legislation with the purpose of protecting individuals from hazard. Now, it is a legal requirement for UK organizations to comply with the control of substances hazardous to health regulations. Now, if there is a lack of compliance, prosecution and fines will be administered. Now, the control of substances hazardous to health regulation, COSHH. COSHH is the UK legislation which deals with the handling of hazardous substances in the workplace. Through conducting a risk assessment, compliance with COSHH can be much easier, as this assessment will allow employers to identify where the hazardous substances are and how they subsequently protect against them. It is an employer's responsibility to ensure COSHH is complied with and upheld in the workplace appropriately. Now, if this does not occur, the employer or responsible individuals will face severe repercussions. Now, the COSHH employers' responsibilities: identifying hazardous substances in the workplace and the different forms in which they can present themselves. You've got to make sure you conduct a risk assessment which essentially identifies the hazardous substances and then distinguishes what appropriate control measures must be used to protect individuals against these substances. Now, you as an employer must ensure that these control measures are upheld and maintained, such as making sure that each employee abide by these control measures. The employer must circulate and communicate the health and safety standards which have been established to protect against hazardous substances to employees, ensuring every employee and work associate is aware of the relevant health and safety measures. Now, there must be appropriate monitoring of these health and safety standards to ensure that if there are any changes in the workplace, the control measures need to reflect and take this into consideration. Planning is very important. Planning needs to be arranged for emergencies. Also, now there should be established emergency plans. Now, what will happen if your organization does not comply with COSHH? The Health and Safety Executive, HSC, are responsible for enforcing COSHH and are subsequently responsible for the penalty system which will be administered if an organization does not comply with COSHH. Hazardous substances control measures. Number one, control equipment. Now, control equipment can be ventilation, extraction systems such as local exhaust ventilation. Now, refuges and respiratory protective equipment, spillage capture, decontamination, cleanup procedures, personal protective equipment, PPE. Now, ways of working. Control through ways of working include operating procedures, supervision, and training. Now, this includes emergency procedures, testing or control measures regularly, equipment, ways of working, and behavior to make sure that they work properly. You should keep record of examinations, tests, and repairs to equipment. Number three, wake up behavior. What is your behavior? Now, where control measures are in place, it is important to use them properly. Now, this includes wearing any PPE necessary, using control equipment, following hygiene procedures, warning supervisors if anything appears to be wrong. Okay, so before we proceed, we are going to check your knowledge. So please choose the correct answer. Okay, number one, what does COSHH stand for? A. Control of substances harmful to health. Control of substances hazardous to health. Control of substances hazardous to hand. Number two, which of the following is COSHH not designed to protect? A. Staff in hospitals, children in schools, workers in the offshore industry, vulnerable adult in care homes. Number three, you can reduce the risk to your skin by A. Changing to a safer product, B. Following the system of work from a risk assessment, and C. Wearing proper gloves. Number four, and the last one, possible control method include A. Eliminate the need to use the substance, use a safer substance, use an engineering control, use a safer system of work, and E. Use PPE as a last resort. So make sure you choose the correct answer just to check your knowledge. Okay, we are going to continue. Now, training for employees working with substances hazardous to health. Provide information, training and instruction for employees who work with substances hazardous to health. Now, this includes cleaning and maintenance staff. Employees need to understand that the outcome of your risk assessment and what this means for them. Tell them what the hazard and risk are. You've got to tell them about any workplace exposure limit. Tell them the result of any monitoring of exposure. Now, where do safety data sheet come in? Now, safety data sheet, sometimes called COSHH data sheet, are ultimately designed to help people make the right decisions when it comes to assessing the risk of harmful substances such as chemicals. Now, these should generally be supplied with a substance and are often found on packaging, such as on the back of the bottle. Now, there are a few things that most safety data sheet should and will contain, including the following: hazard of the substance. Now, many hazard symbols present on a SDS, okay, the safety data sheet, will be familiar for many people. Now, these will include things like warnings for skin irritation, corrosiveness, toxicity, etc. Handling information: it's important to know how hazardous substances can be safely handled, such as which dispensers are suitable. They should be present on a SDS. Storage information: just like food, some substances will have expiry date, which will need to be made clear. Now, some substances will also need to be stored at a certain temperatures. Emergency measures: finally, datasheet should include helpful information for situations whereby the substance has caused harm, such as what to do if it gets in a person's eye. Hazard labeling and packaging. Now, labels are there to help identify hazardous chemicals and explain what the hazards are and how to avoid them. Packaging is also important to ensure that chemicals are stored and disposed of safely. Now, COSHH labels. Now, these symbols help us to know that the chemicals we are using might be explosive, oxidizing, highly or extremely inflammable, very toxic, harmful, irritant, corrosive, or dangerous for the environment. One or more might appear on a single chemical. Right, okay, working at height. Now, work at height means work in any place where, if there were no precautions in place, a person could fall a distance liable to cause personal injury. For example, a fall through a fragile roof. Now, working at height remains one of the biggest causes of fatalities and major injuries. Now, common cases include falls from ladders and through fragile surfaces. Now, what do I have to do? You must make sure work is properly planned before you start, supervised and carried out by competent people with the skills, knowledge, and experience to do the job. You must use the right type of equipment for working at height. Take a sensible approach when considering precautions. Low risk, relatively straightforward tasks require less effort when it comes to planning, and there may be some low risk situations where common sense tells you no particular precautions are necessary. Control measures: first, assess the risks. Factors to weigh up include the height of the task, the duration and frequency, and the condition of the surface being worked on. Personal protection is equipment that requires the individual to act for it to be effective. An example is putting on a safety harness correctly and connecting it with an energy absorbing lanyard to a suitable anchor point. So, do's and don'ts of working at height. Do as much work as possible from the ground if you want to be safe. Ensure workers can get safely to and from where they work at height. to ensure equipment is suitable, stable, and strong enough for the job. Maintained and checked regularly. Take precautions when working on or near fragile surfaces. To provide protection from falling objects. Must consider emergency evacuation and rescue procedures. Don't overload ladders. Consider the equipment or materials workers are carrying before working at height. Overreach on ladders or step ladders. Don't rest a ladder against weak up surfaces, example glazing or plastic gutters. Don't use ladders or step ladders for strenuous or heavy tasks. Only use them for light work of short duration, a maximum of 30 minutes at a time. Don't let anyone who is not competent, who doesn't have the skills, knowledge, and experience to do the job, work at height. Mobile towers. What you need to do. A tower scaffold is one way to prevent a fall when working at height. Now, the type of tower selected must be suitable for the work and erected and dismantled by people who have been trained and are competent to do so. Now, those using tower scaffold should also be trained in the potential dangers and precautions required during use. Tower scaffold provision and use must be properly managed and include rigorous scaffold inspection arrangement. Now, key issues with tower scaffold are erection and dismantling, precautions and inspection, using and moving. Now, many people are injured each year when they fall from towers or when the tower overturns. Towers should be erected by trained and competent people. Mobile elevating work platforms, the MEWPs. Now, what you need to know, in many cases, mobile elevating work platforms provide safe and quick access to trees and a secure working platform. Now, the Work at Height Regulations 2005 guide do not say you have to use MEWPs for all tree work, but you should always consider MEWPs when planning work. Now, MEWPs are particularly suited to tree work in urban areas, work on deceased or dying trees where tree climbing is difficult, others because of tree species or tree form, where there is a reasonable number of trees to be worked on. Now, safe use of ladders and step ladders. Now, when to use a ladder at work? Ladders can be used for work at height when an assessment of the risk for carrying out a task has shown that using equipment that offers a higher level of fall protection is not justified. And as a guide, if your task would require staying up a leaning ladder or step ladder for more than 30 minutes at a time, it is recommended you use alternative equipment. Know how to use a ladder safely. Now, to use a ladder, you must be competent, or if you are being trained, you should be working under the supervision of a competent person. Competence can be demonstrated through a combination of training, practical and theoretical knowledge and experience, of course. Training should be appropriate for the task, and this includes knowing how to assess the risks of using a ladder for a particular task, when it is right to use the ladder and when it is not, which type of ladder to use and how. Right, we have come now to the end of our module 6. So next, test your knowledge. We're going to test your knowledge. So you're going to choose the correct answer here. Number 1, how many people can be on a ladder at the same time? A, 1, B, 2, C, 1 on each section of an extension ladder, D, 3 if it is long enough. Number 2, which of the following is an example of a chemical hazard? A, slippery floors, loud noise, high temperature, toxic fumes. So you choose the correct answer. Number 3, what is the purpose of using personal protective equipment in chemical handling? A, to improve communication, to enhance productivity, to prevent chemical reactions, to minimize exposure, and protect against hazard. Okay. Number 4, when you climb a ladder, you must A, maintain 3 points of contact with the ladder at all times, use a safe harness, have 2 people on ladder at all times, have 2 points of contact with ladder at all times. So you choose the correct answer. Next, what is the purpose of conducting a risk assessment in chemical safety? A, to eliminate all risks associated with chemicals, to identify and evaluate potential hazards and risks, to ensure proper chemical labeling, to determine the cost of chemical storage. And the last one, number 6, what should you do if you get a chemical in your eyes? A, rub your eyes vigorously. B, flush your eyes with water for at least 15 minutes. Continue working and ignore the discomfort. Apply a chemical neutralizing agent to your eyes. So you're going to choose the correct answer. Okay, folks, we've come to the end of our module 6. Congratulations to have come so far. So next video, we're going to be covering noise, vibration, and vehicle safety. That will be module 7. So I'll see you in our next video.